Oh,
I'm very well. How are you doing, Lena?
I'm great. It's good to see you. We were just talking about humidity and non-humidity for the hair situation. So, anyways, good morning to everybody out there. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure that we'll be getting like just lots of people coming to see what you got to say this morning. And where are you located? I think I forgot that.
I live in Manhattan, in New York.
Nice, nice. I love Manhattan. Actually, I loved going out there and visiting, so I'll be back. It's great there. Has the weather changed already?
It's gotten way colder in the
Oh
last
yeah.
week. Yeah, it's almost like we went right from summer into winter. So I'm
Oh,
hoping it backtracks and we get a little bit of fall.
oh,
Yeah.
nice, nice, nice. That is awesome. I'm saying nice. I'm enjoying that it's still almost 90 every day here, but it's good
Oof.
in Houston. So yeah,
Oh
yeah.
gosh.
Look, our friend
Hi,
Sherry,
Sherry.
she's on. Good
Hi, Carly.
morning. Good morning, CJ. Yeah, see, here they come. All right. I am so excited because you do something that is critically important, especially the last few years. Our impact has been extremely significant
Mhm.
with the job market, and you just have an incredible service that you provide, and I'm going to have you beat your own drum and just tell me like what you do and how did you get started?
Yeah, so I'm a career coach and I actually started my company during the pandemic. So I started my business in October 2020. So I've been on this journey along with all of my clients throughout the pandemic. And I was thinking about this. So I know, Lena, you're a fan of pancakes. I love that there's pancakes and coffee on the screen right now. So I made pancakes this morning in honor of Breakfast Bite of Insight. And as I was eating them, I was thinking, like, how do I tell my story on the LinkedIn Live today? And I
Yeah.
actually realized that I wrote my first resume at 17. I used to babysit in my neighborhood, but all of the kids that I babysat got old enough to babysit themselves. So I was out of a job. And I wrote a resume to get a job at a restaurant. And that's how I started working at restaurants. And that's like, I was sort of like the catalyst was that I was out of a job and I needed a job. So I wrote my first resume. And then I thought about when I got sort of involved in the hiring process from the other side, not as an
Mhm.
applicant, but as someone who's doing the hiring, and actually realized it was at 19. I had interned in a company my freshman year after my freshman year of college, and they came to the career fair my sophomore year and needed an extra body to stand at the table and take resumes. So they asked me if I would do it. So I realized at 19, I was acting as a recruiter, taking resumes from my friends. Like that was my
Oh,
first time doing it. Yeah. But I really got into career coaching. I worked at IBM and I worked at Palantir Technologies, and I was going to career fairs and I was doing recruiting presentations all around the world, all around the US, and all around Europe, actually. And I became the hiring manager for my team at Palantir for a few years. And so I was reading thousands of resumes. I was talking to hundreds and hundreds of candidates, right? I was interviewing a lot of people. And what I kept sort of seeing is that, the statistic that people say hiring managers have 6 seconds to read a resume,
right.
right? And you're like, that's not a lot of time, but it's true. That's how much time I had because I had this full time job and being a hiring manager was my side gig, believe it or not. So I only had a couple hours a week to spend. So I would get stacks of resumes and literally do this, just trying to find people to interview and contact. Right. And what I kept realizing was that a lot of the resumes didn't have the information that I needed as a hiring manager to make a decision to call someone or not for an interview. So I kept kind of thinking about this. And I woke up one day and had what I like to call my Elle Woods moment. And
Yeah,
so like
yeah,
Elle wakes up, she goes, I'm going to go to Harvard Law School today.
yeah.
Right. And then she goes through the laborious process of trying to get into Harvard and
Mhm.
does the work to do that. And so I woke up one day and I said, I'm going to speak at a conference. And then I had to start figuring out how am I going to do that. And so I set
Yeah.
my sights on the Harvard of Women in Tech conferences at the time, which is the Grace Hopper celebration. And so a friend of mine, a colleague, and I, we put together a workshop idea in 2014 and we sent it in and we were so excited to do it. We got rejected. Yeah. So, but
Wow.
we got some really great feedback from the reviewers. So we revamped it for 2015. And then I submitted a second one to try to play the odds a little bit.
Yeah.
And both of them got in. So I spoke at the conference twice. And we spoke about how to interview and how to write your resume. Do you know what I mean? And how to approach the job search. And it went gangbusters. We had a packed house, line out the door of people waiting to get in. We ran out of handouts, and I was hooked. And I said, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I can help people with their careers. I can help people with their resumes. And then my career just kind of spiraled from there. So that was my
Wow.
first foray into it. So 17 first resume, 19 first experience as a recruiter, and then 20 years of working in tech and many, many years of being a recruiter and a hiring manager.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So you've seen quite the full circle of what's been happening out there in the employment world and the unemployment world through so much. And through that, especially through 2020, we've had these changes, and that's when you said, I'm driving with this.
Mhm.
What's some of the worst impacts that you've seen happen, from the candidate side, and maybe even from what you've seen from the business side that's created maybe some chasms between the employment process?
So, what I've heard from a lot of my clients and what I've seen recently is that the interview process is just incredibly stressful. And I've seen sometimes people takes months to go through an interview process for a job, or they have to go through anywhere between 15 to 20 different interviews. And I honestly think that's way too much. Do you know that that's a lot to go through to put a candidate through before making a decision or not. And so the interview process itself, I think, could use some work, right? But that's kind of something on the business side. On the
Mhm.
candidate side, what I've seen most often is that folks kind of, if you think of the career transition process as like a timeline, right? Most people start in the middle when they should start at the beginning. And so what I typically see is that folks will kind of wake up one day, right, have their Elwoods moment maybe and say, I'd like to get a new job or I want to get back into the workforce or something like that. And so they immediately update their resume and they just start sending it out online for applications, right? That's what they
Right.
do. Um, but there's a little bit of work that I think people need, two things people need to think about. So one is if you just update your resume and you don't spend the time thinking about your professional brand and how you
Mhm.
want to come across, right? That's a missed opportunity for you to really hone in on what you want to do, right? And then write your resume and your LinkedIn profile to attract those kinds of hiring managers and employers. So that's one thing. The second thing is that about 10% of job applicants find a job through applying online.
Oh,
50% of
wow.
them find a job through networking. So if all you're doing is just applying online, you're missing this whole opportunity, do you know what I mean, of a way to find a job. And it's not very efficient to keep applying online. So I've had some clients come to me that have said with their current resume, and we work together to revamp it. But when they come to me, they're like, I have a resume. I've sent it to 300 to 450 different job applications, and I've received no interview invitations. And it's usually because their branding is off, because they didn't do the time to think about their professional brand and how they want to present themselves
Mm.
first. So usually once we work through that, then they can start again and they have much more success.
And you also, look at this as far as, in your profile, you talk about getting someone from just getting that job to actually elevating to something that's, way more desirable, what they're really looking
Mhm.
for. And is that what makes the difference, is just really understanding their own brand and how to tool that?
Yeah, I have this concept that I think people are way more awesome than they think they are, like way more awesome than they know. So a lot of times when I'm talking to clients and I'm asking them like, tell me what you did at this job and tell me about a couple of projects you work on, we find all of these great nuggets of things that they even like didn't remember that they've done. Do you know? And it's like, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Let's write about that. Let's tell that story. Do you know? And they're like, oh, I forgot. I'm so excited that like we talked about this and I remembered this. So I think people are way more awesome than they think they are. And I think especially as women, I know I do this. I shortchange myself constantly,
Right,
right? And
right.
sometimes
Mhm.
just talking about what you've done to someone else and seeing it written down on paper, it makes all the difference in your confidence. So you just go in really knowing what you bring to the table and knowing your value and understanding what kind of problems you can solve, right? So I think a lot of it is just like really understanding what you bring, what you've done, seeing it on paper. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
my answer. Yeah.
That that's a
I
great
see all the
answer.
chats, but I
Yeah,
haven't had a
I
chance to
know.
read them.
Yeah. Look at that. Sherry quoted you. People are way more
Oh,
awesome than
thanks,
they think
Sherry.
they are. Yeah. No wonder you're so successful. And yeah. And no wonder your clients love you. 100%. I agree. And we talked about that. Like, we do the awesome people here. And I love that. What else? Now, I know also you talk about, kind of making things match up or make sense, say with resume, profile, LinkedIn, all of that polish. Why is that important?
Well, I think you want to present a cohesive brand. If you think about a resume and your LinkedIn profile, it's basically your marketing, right? So when I usually work with clients, we'll write their resume first and then write their LinkedIn profile. And I know I mentioned I live in the city, so if you can hear the sirens behind me,
I
I
can.
apologize for that.
That's okay.
That's just I can hear them really loudly. Um, so because you have to understand, like, you do still need a resume in order to apply for a job. And as
Mhm.
a hiring manager, usually if I found someone's resume and I was interested, I would immediately search their name and find their LinkedIn profile. So you have to assume that people are going to read both. And the resume is a little bit more of a standard document, right? It has to be more formatted. It's written very professionally. And I think
Right.
what's fun about your LinkedIn profile is that you can be a little more informal.
Mhm.
So you can create like a banner, behind your
Mhm.
profile photo. You can have a great photo. You can have a great headline. You can put an about section and have a little bit of a bio and tell people a little bit more about you in your own voice, right? So I think you have to
Right.
utilize both of them. But I find it's nice to write the resume first and then sort of translate that into your LinkedIn profile. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's great advice. We've got some questions. Let's put those up there.
Yeah.
CJ asked, how can young people identify how to find or what networking events to attend? And I guess that
Well,
would be related to job, finding a job, I would assume.
yeah, CJ, that's an awesome question. So I'm going to split it up into college students or like people in school and then
Mhm.
young professionals. So for college students, a lot of companies actually go to different campuses. They go to the career fair, they do info sessions on campus. There's another tool I know a lot of colleges use called Handshake. That's sort of like, I guess, like a LinkedIn for college students.
Oh,
So
wow.
there are a lot of networking opportunities for college students at their school, right? There's usually a career development center as well. Like I recommend that college students tap into the resources at their university and really start exploring those. But there's also a lot of, I always think of networking. There's three parts to it. So there's like the prep, there's the doing the networking, and then there's the follow up. So I have a funny story about this actually. I'll tell real quickly. So when I used to go to career fairs, and I've been to a lot of career fairs as a recruiter, I would always wear jeans. That was our uniform, was like a company t-shirt and jeans. And in my one back pocket, in this one, I had a generic company business card. But in this back pocket, I had my business card. So if I really wanted someone to follow up, I would give them my business card and I would say to them directly, write me an email, follow up with me, like connect with me. And you know what? No one actually ever did it, which is so interesting. And so my
Yeah.
advice to college students, if you get a recruiter or a hiring manager or someone at a company who gives you their personal email, you best use it.
Mhm.
They want to
Wow.
help you. At least that was my trick, right? If I was like, I wasn't sure
Yeah.
I could do anything for you, you got the generic card. If I thought I might be able to help you, or do you know what I mean? You had a question that I felt like
Yeah.
I could answer better over something like that, I'd give you mine. So that's just the tip. So I think college students, again, tap into the resources at your university and really utilize those. For early professionals, I think it just comes sometimes can be trial and error.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like try a couple of different events, a couple of different organizations, go to something twice just to make sure because you never know. And a lot of organizations, especially if you're doing something like BNI, they'll let you try out different chapters and go to at least 2 meetings before you have to sign up and join. So I'd recommend finding some different organizations, events, and just like sort of testing it out to see if you like, you like the people, you like the content, you feel like it's worthwhile.
Sure. Yeah.
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 CJ, I
No,
hope
that's
that
great
answers your
advice.
question. Let me know if I can elaborate on anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That was great. Sherry. How do you help people figure out the specific talking and resume points of how awesome they are? That's a good
Yeah, that
question.
is a fantastic question. I love that question. So when I help people develop their professional brand, oh, my microphone just fell over. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. Um, home setup. Um, One of the things that I ask folks, and this is a gut question, and anyone listening can actually do this right now. And if you'd like to sort of follow along. So a question I ask and I say, I want your gut reaction, write down the first three things that come to mind, is if I were to ask you, what are your three unique selling points? What would your answer be? Gut reaction. So anyone that, if
What?
you're just thinking about this, yeah, gut reaction, just write down the three things. And I've gotten all sorts of answers,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes it's I'm a great problem solver, or I'm
Yeah.
a really good communicator,
Yeah.
or I'm extremely organized. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like I just love getting people hyped up. It could be anything, right? So
Yeah.
once you define your three unique selling points, then that's kind of going to drive your brand. And the reason why I pick three is because if you have too many and you give someone too much information on
Yeah.
your resume or LinkedIn profile, they
Yeah.
absorb nothing.
Yeah.
It's like standing in front of a
Wow.
fire hose and trying to drink the water. You can't do it. you know. So I think developing your brand needs three specific things, and then those three things we want to make sure appear constantly in your resume
I love
over and
that.
over and over again, backing up. So it's like if you're writing a professional summary, your three unique selling points are in there in some way, shape, or form. And then talking about your work experience, do you know what I mean? Your career experience, we're going to back up those three unique selling points with specific examples.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's usually how I like to write things. And
That
also, top tip: not everything is going to be on your resume. You don't have space. A resume is a movie trailer, not the full movie.
oh,
So
that's
if you're
good.
writing a resume and it becomes too long and you have to cut it down to one or two pages, that's
Yeah.
okay, right?
Mhm.
Because you can always add some of that extra information to your LinkedIn profile.
Oh, secret. It's a secret.
Yeah.
It's a secret, but not really. Listen carefully. These are good. It's good secrets. Yes.
So,
Yes. Look at this. Look. Oh, we have such a good audience today. That repetition is so strategic. Yes, it is. That
oh,
is
thank you,
an
Sherry.
amazing tip. I like that. Three unique selling um,
Points. Yeah.
points about yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it has to be a gut
Wow.
reaction. Your gut is gonna be right.
Yeah, you had my gut like going, oh, thinking about that just for a minute, like, I'm funny in my mind, you know?
That's but that's a wonderful unique selling point. You're
Yeah.
entertaining and engaging.
Oh, see, look, y'all, the audience. I just want y'all to repeat that. Now I've been called entertaining and engaging, and I'm all about it. I mean, slather, that everywhere because I kind of like it. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Anne. You just boosted my whole everything today. So,
Yay!
I was large and in charge before, but now, got the big head. So that's
Well, I
wonderful.
actually knew this about you when we first met because we had a networking meeting, do you know what I mean, a couple weeks ago, and we just had a blast. And I just thought this is gonna be so much fun. Yeah.
It's a roll. It's a roll. And you had pancakes before ahead of
Mhm.
time, which is just, just starts the day off so well, just so close. It's so good. Oh my goodness. Always good. You realize, we did talk about only having cool people. So there's that. So
Oh, I'm honored.
yeah. So one of the things I would say too, there was a little secret or a super cool thing that I just thought was fascinating we were talking about, and I dropped a little hint in the, in
Yeah.
the pre-trailer or whatever you want to call it about you, and it had to do with poker. And
Yeah.
you got to tell about that.
Sure. So, believe it or not, I actually moonlight as a poker dealer sometimes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I learned how to play cards as a young kid. And we used to play poker for fun, with like pennies, right? And we used to just play to play. And I took this how to use poker in business workshop a couple of years ago where I really learned how to play to win. And my friend Ellen Lakeland runs a company called Poker Divas, and she does these workshops. And I love the workshops so much. We actually, at my last company, we hired her to come in and do workshops for us.
Oh,
And one of my favorite poker memories is Ellen came and did a recruiting event for us at the Grace Hopper celebration.
oh
And
wow.
it was 120 people crammed into this room for the workshop. And the way that the conference works is that we would have we invite recruits to come to this event, but they would be invited to a lot of events every night. So they would sort of show up and then leave and like, go to all these different sort of parties. And people were coming in and brought their friends that we didn't have on the list and said, we can only stay for 30 minutes. And so I was pulling my colleagues out of chairs and putting recruits in. The AV was broken. So I was crouched in the corner, forwarding Ellen's slides like this, to try to get it done. But all 120 people stayed for 3 hours. We
Wow.
learned how to use poker, like how poker principles apply to business. And then we played a poker tournament. And the cool thing about the poker tournament is that the best hand you can get in poker is a royal flush. And so you would get that, I think it's one out of every 650,000 times you might get this
Wow.
hand. And someone at that tournament got it. And she ended up winning the whole tournament. It was so
Wow.
cool. And so, yeah, so I just think that's how I really got into poker, was taking the workshop. And now I play every Friday night with a group of badass ladies and our one guy friend. We all play
Oh my
together.
gosh. That
It's a
is
lot of fun.
fantastic. That
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah. So
Wow. Oh, that is super
funny
cool.
story there about poker, but I just think it's so much fun. It's a great mental exercise.
Yeah.
And I will admit to, a lot of times when I eat my lunch, I watch poker videos of the pros online because I'm trying to get better.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. There's a book that, her name is Annie something, and it's called Thinking on Bets. And it has
Yes.
to do with
Yes.
poker, and
Is that
it's,
Annie
like,
Duke?
super interesting. Yes,
I think,
yes,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
interesting. That was the first time I'd ever, even read anything that, had poker and business related, and, how
Mhm.
she really went from translating, all her technique and, abilities,
Yeah.
and spoke about business, so that is incredible. Oh, I love that story. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that because I was so excited about it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we were like, "We're gonna talk poker for a little bit." Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna run over time just a minute. We got a
Okay.
question. Um, okay, Sherry. Oh my goodness, these people, I love y'all. Sherry asks, speaking of movie trailer, we're going back
Mm.
to resumes. Do you like video resumes?
Sherry, I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of experience creating a video resume, but I think I think it's a wonderful idea. And you can actually do that on LinkedIn, because under your profile photo, you can record a 30-second video of you speaking. So I sort of think of it as more of like your elevator pitch, right? So coming up with that 30 seconds of what do you want someone to know about you, I think that's a great way. Also, one of the concepts I also kind of talk about when I write LinkedIn profiles is to make it really easy and really comfortable for someone to reach out to you. So the more
Mhm,
information you have about yourself, right? Like your profile photo, your pronouns, the little recording of how to pronounce your name, right? And
mhm,
the video behind your profile photo, it just
mhm.
makes it a little bit more easy for someone to feel comfortable reaching out to you, because I can pronounce your first name right, right? Like
Yeah,
I know what pronouns you use, right? Like maybe I've seen a little video of you talking, so I feel a connection to you, right? I sort of
gotcha.
can know what it's going to be like to get on the phone or get on video with you. So yeah, I think I like video resumes, but the ones that I've had experience with are going to be that 30-second elevator pitch on your LinkedIn profile.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. It's a nice, quick clip. Here's another real quick question. What are your
Okay.
recommendations when you feel that an employer doesn't seem to work with you around your work schedule to interview you? And oh, this is a long one. And puts pressure on you because they are needing someone in a very quick turnaround. Hmm.
Ooh. Okay,
Oof.
and so just to clarify this question, I'm just want to make sure I understand it properly. So a potential employer is trying to interview you, and you have a current job, and this potential employer wants to interview you while you're actually your current job, and is not really willing to schedule around you to get the interview done because they need someone really, really quickly. Is that Lena? Does
That's
that
kind of
sound like what the question is? Yeah.
that's kind of how I'm reading into it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Let's go with that.
Okay. I think that's really tough. I'd probably want to have a conversation with someone about this just to understand more of the context. And that's a rough situation. I guess I would say that's going to give you an impression of this potential employer right
Hmm.
now, that
Yeah.
maybe they're just like incredibly inflexible. And is that okay with you, or is that not okay?
Right. Right.
And like, I
Yeah.
think that's just something to consider. I do understand a lot of times with interviews, eventually, if you keep moving in the process, they probably want you to do a day of interviews, right? Or
Yeah.
like come to the office and do in-person interviews,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Some people are
Yeah.
coming back to that, some people aren't. So that might be
Yeah.
something to consider, where eventually you may have to take a day off or kind of work that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I don't really, that's my generic answer, but I feel like I would
Yeah.
need more context to provide a
Yeah.
deeper answer for this
That's
question. But it is a
awesome.
really good one. Yeah.
It is. It seems to me like first impression of that might be that, like you said, it might not that might be your first flag. I'm not going to call it a red flag or anything, just a
Yeah.
flag to say,
Yeah.
I don't know, but perfect reason to reach out to you and get some guidance and think about that. And,
Yeah.
maybe make some
Interviewing.
decisions and, get some ideas
Yeah.
of, maybe they need to find a different job to apply for.
Well,
So,
interview is also a two-way street, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
the company's interviewing you, but you're interviewing the company. So I
Hmm.
also think that's important to keep in mind, to constantly think, do I want to work with this group? Do I
Yeah.
like their culture? Do I like the answers they're giving me to my questions? Right?
Hmm.
Would I be happy here long term? Because you want to find, you want to have a nice meet cute, but then you want to have a nice happily ever after too.
Yeah.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. I love that. I love that. I can't even tell you how great it is to get to spend time with you and
Oh,
you
same.
have given us so much information and wow, like packed full of great tips and advice. And, I know you do a lot to serve people, and you really do have a lot of superpowers. Amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Um, Tell me, Ann, do you have anything coming up soon that you'd like to tell everybody about?
Well, sure. I actually made a landing page for Breakfast Bite of Insight listeners. So it's just annireneryan.com/BBOI. And
Oh,
on that
wow.
page, you can get my free resume template download. I recorded a video last night, actually, of me walking you through the resume template. And then there's some link at the bottom. If you still have some questions or want to talk to me about your resume, you can book a consulting call with me. And I've got 3 options on the bottom of that page for that too, if you'd like to work together on your resume or any other career questions that you have. So I did
That's
that for Breakfast
amazing.
Bite of Insight listeners. Yeah, and in terms of everything coming up, I'm just still continuing to work one-on-one with clients, and I'm
Yes.
also branching into going where I got my start with workshops. And so I'm
Nice.
starting to actually do more speaking and going to women's professional networking groups and colleges and different corporations to do some professional development workshops, which I just think are the most fun ever.
That is fantastic, and congratulations on that. You're just
Thank
like
you.
yeah, speaking, all of it, wonderful and wonderful help. And, be sure you put that amazing link, so honored that, Breakfast Bite is a part of it. Put that link, in the chat for,
I'll do that
all
right
of our
now.
people when you get a chance and any contact information for you.
Got it.
Um, you know, you made my morning. I'm so glad to have got to spend time with you, and thank you so much for being on here. And you know, stay well. We're in touch. We love to
Yeah.
laugh, so that's our rule here. Here on her. This is the 31st episode, so thank you for being a part of that.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
And I wish you to. And
Okay. Bye, everyone.
yeah, yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
Happy Thursday.